So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. So I hope everything's good. Guys, Manny Pacquiao has responded to Mayweather. I think you guys will probably remember a couple of weeks ago, Floyd Mayweather put out that after his Logan Paul fight, and he said he feels sorry for Manny Pacquiao, that Manny Pacquiao has to fight because he still needs to fight, because he still needs the paycheck, he still needs the payday. Manny Pacquiao has come out and responded and said responded back and hit back at Floyd Mayweather, saying he doesn't just fight to get a payday. He doesn't just fight to, fight a non-boxer and make huge amount of money. He fights the best, and he gets, basically it's about legacy for him, not just about the money. He doesn't just fight anyone just to get a payday. He wants to fight the best and enhance his legacy. And you can't really argue with that with Manny, because Floyd, to be honest with you, and I know a lot of Manny Pacquiao fans are going to say, well, Floyd, he's fighting YouTubers and this, that, and the other. Floyd in his prime fought everybody, really. He fought most of the guys. Now, I know a lot of people say he picked and choose. You have to give Floyd Mayweather credit, but Floyd Mayweather is retired, and he's seen opportunities to stay relevant and make a lot of money. He's not saying he's a championship level fighter anymore. I just don't want to come here and give Floyd Mayweather criticism. I didn't like the comments, because I don't think there's any need for that. Why do you need to say Manny Pacquiao still needs to fight? That, I'm pretty sure Floyd doesn't know Manny Pacquiao's situation, or who knows, maybe he does. But I'm pretty sure Manny Pacquiao financially is very well off. Let's not forget, Floyd and him had a fight which was seen as the biggest fight at the time, and they both earned huge amounts of money. We heard rumors that Pacquiao earned about 150 million and Floyd earned about 250 or 300, whatever. But the fact of the matter is that we all know as boxing fans that they both earned a lot of money for that fight. So we know that Pacquiao has alternative reasons, because he wants to become president, and he has a party and stuff, which all, to get into politics costs money. It's not free. Also, Manny Pacquiao does a lot of charity work where he gives a lot of his money away to his people and stuff. So he does a lot of that as well. So we know why he fights, and he gives a lot back to his community, to his people. So that needs to be respected and admired from Pacquiao. But I do think Pacquiao is driven by legacy. Whereas I think Mayweather, especially for the second part of Mayweather's career, when he became Floyd Money Mayweather, I think the it's given away in his name, Money Mayweather. I think it became about business and about making a lot of money. Whereas Pacquiao's never really been that type of guy. Of course, every fighter wants to make money. They're prize fighters. Every fighter wants to make money. That's why they have a team to do the best deals for them, to do the best piece of business for them. But I think with Pacquiao was more of a mindset where he'd literally fight anyone, whereas Mayweather was more, he'd pick and choose the right times, and he'd, basically where he feels that the fight is the most lucrative rather than the most dangerous. As Mayweather says, it's about working smarter, not harder, which is, reasonable. Everybody wants to work smarter, not harder. Nobody wants to work harder. If there's an opportunity for you to make a lot of money without putting in as much hard graft, then why not? Everybody would want to go down that route, right? Nobody wants to have to work super hard if they know that they can make their money in an easier way. And I think that's what Floyd mastered. Floyd mastered the game of boxing, the business side of boxing. And that's why he's a very smart, shrewd man. Whereas Manny Pacquiao was more of a fighter. He'd just fight anyone. He'd just take on anyone. That's why Manny Pacquiao has more losses, because Manny Pacquiao wasn't afraid of fighting anyone, whether it was in their prime, not in their prime, whether the style was right for them or not, or he just fight anyone. You can't really say Manny ducked anyone or dodged anyone in their prime. He fought literally everyone, because that's just the way Manny was. And I think this Manny Pacquiao has already got so much credit for fighting someone like Errol Spence, even though the fight's not happened yet. Just for taking this fight, a lot of people are giving Manny respect, because they're looking at it. He's a 42-year-old fighting a guy that's in most people's top 5 pound for pound list, undefeated, unified welterweight champion Errol Spence in his prime. Who does that at the age of 42? You don't see that. Like Mayweather now is, okay, a couple years older, but he's fighting YouTube. Like that's the level normally, 42, 43. And by the way, I'm not hating on Mayweather here. That's what 42, 43, 44 years of age guys that have a huge name, huge profile, that want to make money do. They have exhibition fights. But Manny Pacquiao should be having exhibition fights, but instead he's fighting the best in the world. That shows his competitiveness, that shows his drive and his longevity. Because let's not forget, Manny Pacquiao was around when Floyd Mayweather was around early on. He may have not been as successful as Mayweather early on, but Manny Pacquiao was around when Floyd Mayweather was around, and Manny Pacquiao's still going. So you've got to take that longevity into account when you're looking at their greatness. That Mayweather's finished, what, 4 or 5 years ago? So when did Mayweather finish? Mayweather finished in 2016, I believe. That was 5 years ago. And Manny's still going 5 years later, and he's fighting, not like he's just going and fighting like a Mikey Garcia, who would still be a very credible fighter at this age. He's fighting the best. He's fighting Errol Spence. He's fighting the best in the world in his weight class. He's fighting a guy that's people view as the top 5 pound for pound. People view him as the next big, the next superstar in boxing, the next cash cow in boxing. That's how they view Errol Spence, and Manny Pacquiao's fighting him. This is why I say that you've got to give Manny Pacquiao so much credit. And I don't think it's solely about the money. I think, of course, Manny Pacquiao probably got paid more money fighting Errol Spence than he was offered maybe anyone else. And that's why he probably took that fight. Now, Manny Pacquiao was initially in talks to fight Conor McGregor. That's why he signed with Paradigm Sports, because I'm pretty sure they wanted to make a fight with Conor McGregor. But the fight with McGregor fell through because McGregor lost. So although Manny Pacquiao is saying that, he fights the best, he does fight the best, but he was also in talks to fight Conor McGregor. That was apparently very serious talks. Now, McGregor lost, and that basically fight went down the wayside. But it would have been interesting to see if McGregor had won. Would that fight have actually happened? Because Manny had signed to Paradigm Sports, who we know is Conor McGregor's management team, and now they're putting a spanner in the work, blocking that fight, because Manny had signed a deal. Now, I don't know what was the reason from him signing that deal. Was it a case where Manny was going to fight Mikey? Because Mikey Garcia, I remember in an interview, said that, yeah, he will fight Conor McGregor, but he'll fight me first. And Paradigm basically are saying that they wanted Manny to fight Mikey, and that everything was agreed apparently. And that's why they're looking to, take it to court or whatever. I don't know what the situation is, but they're looking to stop the Spence fight, because they thought they probably had involvement in that Mikey Garcia fight. And maybe that was going to lead on to a McGregor fight. Who knows what the score was? But Manny ended up taking this Spence fight. And I think it is down to money as well, because of course Manny right now is at the end of his career, and I don't think Manny's afraid of fighting anyone. For Manny Pacquiao, it's all about who pays him the most, who's the biggest purse out there for him. And Spence probably was that, because Spence is growing into a huge star now. So Spence and Pacquiao would be doing huge numbers on pay-per-view as well. I think it does between 600 to maybe 800,000. It's Pacquiao Spence. So I can understand why Pacquiao would be keen on taking that fight, because financially it's a very lucrative fight for Manny. And I actually think financially it's probably a bigger fight, unless the fight was going to happen, the Mikey Garcia fight was going to happen in Saudi Arabia, where they were going to pay, they were going to pay Manny Pacquiao huge money for that fight in the Middle East. But I do personally think the Spence fight is the biggest fight out there for Manny financially. I think McGregor would have been huge, but unfortunately McGregor lost, so that kind of put that fight to a wayside. But you have to give Manny credit. At the age of 42 years of age, to still be fighting someone like Errol Spence, I just don't see people doing that. I just don't see people doing that in the sport of boxing anymore. You know, it'd probably have to be up there with the best win in boxing for a guy at 42 to beat a 30-year-old Errol Spence. I think if he was to win this fight, I think it would surpass anything he's done in his career. I think this would be his biggest achievement. And think about what Manny Pacquiao's done in the sport of boxing. Think about how stellar his career has been. And for me to say this would be the biggest win in his career, this would be surpass anything he's done in his career for me. And this would take Manny Pacquiao to a whole different level from a legacy point of view if he was to pull this off. And that's why I'm trying to say that Manny Pacquiao is daring to be great. And when you've done what Manny Pacquiao has done in the sport of boxing, to say that he's daring to be great, it's a bit like Canelo. If Canelo goes up to light heavyweight, for me, he's daring to be great because he's now moving up and fighting guys that are way bigger than him. And it becomes dangerous. You're daring to be great. You're daring to do something, even though you're already great. Manny Pacquiao's already great. He doesn't have to do that. But he wants to dare even greater. He wants to climb an even higher mountain. Same with Canelo. If he was to go to light heavyweight, he'd be daring to be even greater than what he already is. And it's hard for him to be greater than what he already is. But he wants to push the boundaries even further. Same with Pacquiao, wants to push the boundaries even further. And you've got to respect that. Especially at the fact that he's no longer in his prime. And he's fighting a guy who's way bigger than him. He's got all the physical advantages over him. He's got the youth. He's naturally the bigger man. And he's in his prime. So Manny Pacquiao hasn't got a lot of advantages going into this fight. But yet he's still wanting to take that challenge. He's still willing to dare to be great because he knows what that will do for his legacy. Also, financially, he knows this is the biggest fight. And from a legacy point of view, it would take his legacy to another level. So Manny probably looks at it, I'm going to get well compensated for it anyway. And it's an opportunity for me to take my career and my legacy to another level. Manny Pacquiao's lost before. So another loss on his record isn't going to affect his greatness or is going to affect his career. This is kind of like a free swing for Manny in the sense that he's going to get paid a lot of money and most people don't expect him to win. If he wins, he takes his legacy and career to another level. And like I said, he's already one of the greatest fighters of all time. So you can imagine by me saying that he takes it to another level, we're talking about GOAT status. We're talking at that kind of level. We're talking about him being one of the greatest ever. That's the kind of level we're talking if he wins and pulls this off. And that's why I say that you've got to respect the hustle and the determination of Manny Pacquiao to fight someone like Errol Spence, because even at this age, he still wants to prove he's the number. If he beats Errol Spence, he's the best welterweight in the world. You could probably put him number one pound for pound because his last two wins are against Thurman and Spence. That's probably number, like if he beats Errol Spence with what he's done in his career, I think you have to put him number one pound for pound. And how many 42-year-olds do you know that would be number one pound for pound? I actually think he even surpasses Canelo. Because that win against Spence, Canelo's not had anything in his last 4 or 5 fights that would come close to an Errol Spence kind of victory. Especially Manny Pacquiao being a smaller man. And I know he's been campaigning at welterweight for a long time, but still, he's the smaller man out of Spence. And Pacquiao's way smaller than Spence. So for him to pull that off, for me, you're talking number one pound for pound. If he beats Errol Spence. I would say even though Pacquiao's not been very active, that kind of win puts him number one or near the number one pound for pound, number one, number two, because Manny Pacquiao's not in anybody's top 10. If he beats Errol Spence, he goes number one, number two, pound for pound now. And then in terms of where he is in terms of an all-time list, he's definitely in the top 5 of the greatest fighters of all time. And you could even put him number 2, number 3. Who knows? You can even probably make a case for number 1. But that's what we're talking. That's the kind of level that Manny Pacquiao is now operating at. So you've got to give him a lot of credit. But leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below about Floyd's comments and Manny Pacquiao hitting back at Floyd that I fight the best. Leave your thoughts, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.